Dr. Marcus Chen had seen many strange things during his time as a xenobiologist aboard the research vessel Aurora, but nothing had prepared him for the desperate message that crackled through their communications array at 0347 hours, ship time. Please, anyone who receives this transmission, the voice was melodic yet strained, speaking in broken galactic standard. My daughter is dying. We have tried everything our healers know. The crystal sickness spreads through her body like fire through dry grass. If there are any among the stars who possess knowledge we do not, we beg you to help us. Captain Sarah Rodriguez looked up from her coffee, her dark eyes meeting Marcus's across the bridge. The Aurora was 3 days out from the Kepler station, conducting routine stellar cartography in the Outer Rim territories. They weren't supposed to be making contact with unknown species, but the desperation in that voice cut through protocol like a plasma torch through hull plating. Origin of the transmission? Rodriguez asked her communications officer. Third planet in the Zeta-7 system, Captain. No previous contact logged in our databases. The signal is being broadcast on multiple frequencies, including some we've never encountered before. Marcus stood up from his station, his heart racing. This was exactly the kind of discovery that had driven him to join the deep space exploration program 15 years ago. Captain, we have to respond. If they're dealing with some kind of crystalline pathogen, our medical databases might have something that could help. Or we could be walking into a trap, Chief Security Officer Janet Walsh interjected from her position near the tactical display. Unknown species, unknown territory, and they're conveniently asking for help just as we happen to pass through their system. Rodriguez drummed her fingers on the arm of her command chair. The Aurora carried a crew of 847 humans, along with the most advanced medical and scientific equipment the Earth Alliance could provide. They had protocols for first contact situations, but those protocols assumed planned. Official meetings with species that had already been contacted by other human vessels. Dr. Chen, what's your professional opinion? Could this be legitimate? Marcus pulled up the spectral analysis of the transmission on his tablet. The emotional distress patterns in the voice are consistent with genuine grief and desperation. The linguistic structure suggests a highly advanced civilization. They've managed to learn galactic standard well enough to communicate complex ideas. And the fact that they're broadcasting on multiple frequencies, including some that require significant technological sophistication to generate, suggests they're not primitive. Another transmission came through, this one with video. The bridge crew fell silent as the main screen filled with the image of what could only be described as a living work of art. The being before them was humanoid but ethereally beautiful, with skin that seemed to shimmer like polished silver and large, luminous eyes that held depths of intelligence and sorrow. Elaborate crystalline structures grew from her forehead and temples, pulsing with a soft blue light. I am Ambassador Veltar of the Crystalline Hegemony, she said, her voice carrying the weight of barely controlled despair. My daughter, Princess Zaralyn, is in the final stages of crystal corruption. Our healers say she has perhaps 2 of your days remaining. We have detected your vessel and scanned your databases through our long-range sensors. Your species possesses medical knowledge that might save her. I am prepared to offer our star charts, our technological databases, even territorial concessions if you will only help us. The image shifted to show a younger version of the ambassador, lying on what appeared to be a biobed surrounded by monitoring equipment that looked both organic and technological, where the ambassador's crystalline growths pulsed with healthy blue light. The princess's crystals were shot through with angry red veins that seemed to crawl across her skin like living things. Marcus felt his breath catch in his throat. He had studied xenobiology for most of his adult life, but he had never seen anything like this. The crystalline structures appeared to be both part of the being's natural physiology and somehow corrupted by disease. Captain, he said quietly, I need to see that patient in person. Our medical scanners might be able to detect something their equipment can't. And if this is some kind of parasitic or viral infection affecting the crystalline matrix, we might have pharmaceutical approaches they haven't considered. Rodriguez looked around the bridge at her senior staff. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Elizabeth Reeves nodded slowly. Our biocontainment protocols are designed to handle unknown pathogens. We could establish a sterile examination environment. The risk assessment, Rodriguez asked Walsh. High but manageable if we maintain proper security protocols. Their long-range scanning capabilities suggest significant technological advancement, but the desperation in their message argues against this being an elaborate deception. Rodriguez made her decision. Open a channel. Ambassador Veltar, this is Captain Sarah Rodriguez of the Earth Alliance vessel Aurora. We are willing to attempt to help your daughter, but we must establish proper medical and security protocols first. We will approach your world under defensive conditions and request permission to transport our medical team to examine the patient. The relief that flooded across the ambassador's features was immediate and profound. Captain Rodriguez, you have my eternal gratitude. We will transmit coordinates for our capital city and ensure safe passage for your medical team. Please, time is running short. As the communication ended, Marcus was already moving toward the medical bay, his mind racing through the possibilities: crystal corruption, crystalline matrix infection, parasitic involvement of naturally occurring mineral structures within the alien physiology. None of it made sense from a traditional biological standpoint. But that was what made it fascinating. Dr. Chen, Rodriguez called after him. You realize this could be the most important first contact in human history? Marcus paused at the bridge exit and looked back at his captain. Or it could be the most important medical case in human history. Either way, we have to try. 3 hours later, the Aurora dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the crystalline hegemony's home system. The planet below was a work of art, its continents traced with lines of light that pulsed in complex patterns visible even from orbit. Crystalline spires rose from the surface like frozen lightning, and their scans detected energy readings unlike anything in their databases. As their shuttle descended through the atmosphere, Marcus checked his medical kit one final time. He had no idea what he was about to encounter, but he was certain of one thing. The next few hours would change everything, not just for the dying princess below, but for the future of human-alien relations throughout the galaxy. The capital city of the crystalline hegemony was like stepping into a fever dream made of light and living stone. As Marcus followed Ambassador Veltar through corridors that seemed to grow rather than be built, he tried to process what his sensors were telling him. The walls themselves were alive, pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that his tricorder identified as some form of symbiotic organism, integrated with crystalline structures. Your architecture is remarkable, Dr. Reeves whispered beside him, her medical scanner constantly beeping as it tried to categorize the unprecedented readings. The entire city appears to be a single organism. Veltar glanced back at them, her silvery features tight with worry. Our ancestors learned to work with the crystal entities millennia ago. They provide us with technology, shelter, and healing in exchange for our biological energy. It is a partnership that has made us one of the most advanced civilizations in this galactic arm. But something is going wrong with that partnership, Marcus observed, noting how some of the wall crystals showed the same red corruption they had seen in the princess. Yes, the crystal corruption began appearing 3 months ago. It affects our young most severely, and Princess Zaralyn was among the first infected. We have lost 47 children already. Veltar's voice broke slightly. Our healers believe it may be some form of rejection response, as if the crystal entities are turning against us. They arrived at the Royal Medical Facility, a soaring chamber filled with equipment that looked like a fusion of advanced technology and living coral. At the center, on a platform that seemed to be carved from a single massive crystal, lay Princess Zaralyn. Marcus had seen the images, but being in the same room with her was different. She was small, probably equivalent to a human teenager, with the same ethereal beauty as her mother, but marred by the angry red veins that crawled across her crystalline growths, like infected blood vessels. Her breathing was shallow and labored, and the monitoring crystals around her pulsed erratically. The corruption has spread to 60% of her crystal matrix, explained the chief healer, an elderly being whose own crystals had grown into elaborate formations that suggested great age and wisdom. When it reaches 75%, the neural connections will be severed and she will die. Marcus approached the bed slowly, his medical scanner active. The readings were unlike anything in his database, but patterns were beginning to emerge. Dr. Reeves, look at these bioelectric patterns. The red areas show completely different electrical activity than the healthy blue regions. It's almost like two different organisms fighting for control. Reeves agreed, studying her own readings. But what I don't understand is why your healers haven't been able to treat this with your advanced crystal technology. The chief healer's expression was grim. Because the corruption appears to be immune to our traditional methods. It does not respond to crystal harmonics, bioenergy treatments, or any of the healing techniques we have developed over thousands of years. It is as if this disease specifically evolved to defeat our medical capabilities. Marcus frowned, something nagging at the back of his mind. Ambassador, may I ask about your recent contact with other species? Any new trade relationships, diplomatic missions, or exploration activities? Veltar exchanged glances with the chief healer. 3 months ago, we established trade relations with a species called the Hegemony Collective. They offered us new crystal enhancement technologies in exchange for access to our bioenergy research. The first cases of corruption appeared shortly after we began implementing their crystal modifications. Sabotage, Dr. Reeves said immediately. This isn't a natural disease. Someone engineered this to specifically target your species' symbiotic relationship with the crystals. Marcus was already pulling up his portable laboratory equipment. If that's true, then your traditional healing methods won't work because this isn't a traditional disease. It's a targeted biological weapon. He looked at the princess, his mind racing through possibilities. But weapons are designed to kill, not to be incurable. There has to be a weakness. What do you need from us? Veltar asked, hope beginning to creep back into her voice. I need to understand exactly how the symbiotic relationship works between your people and the crystals. Not just the basic mechanics, but the detailed biochemistry, the energy transfer mechanisms, everything. Marcus was setting up his analysis equipment as he spoke, and I need to take some samples of both the corrupted and healthy crystal tissue. The next several hours passed in intense analysis. Marcus discovered that the crystalline hegemony's physiology was far more complex than he had initially realized. The crystal growths weren't just decorative or technological. They were essential organs that processed energy, filtered toxins from their blood, and even helped regulate their brain chemistry. The corruption was essentially poisoning these organs from within. The beauty of the weapon, he explained to Reeves as they worked, is that it hijacks the crystal's own biological processes. The corruption spreads by converting healthy crystal cells into infected ones, and it specifically targets the neural interfaces that allow their people to communicate with the crystal entities. So how do we stop it? Marcus looked up from his microscope, excitement building in his voice. We don't fight the corruption directly. We bypass it entirely. He turned to Veltar and the chief healer. Your traditional medicine focuses on working with the crystals, right? But what if instead of trying to heal the crystals, we temporarily sever the connection between the crystals and the princess's biological systems? The healer looked horrified. That would kill her instantly. The crystals regulate her vital functions. Not if we replace those functions with human medical technology. Marcus was already pulling up specifications on his tablet. Our life support systems can temporarily take over the regulatory functions, while we use targeted pharmaceuticals to attack the corruption directly. Once the infected crystal tissue is eliminated, we can re-establish the biological connections. You want to turn my daughter into a human patient, Veltar said slowly. Temporarily, yes. The corruption is designed to defeat crystalline hegemony medicine, but it has no defenses against human pharmaceutical intervention. Our antibiotics, antivirals, and cellular regeneration treatments work on completely different principles than your crystal healing. Dr. Reeves was nodding enthusiastically. It's brilliant. We isolate the patient from the compromised systems and treat the infection using methods the weapons designers never anticipated. But the risk, the chief healer protested. If your human systems fail, or if we cannot re-establish the crystal connections afterward. Marcus looked at the princess, her breathing becoming more labored as they spoke. What's her current survival probability with your traditional methods? Less than 5%, the healer admitted. Then we have nothing to lose. Marcus began unpacking his emergency medical kit. I'm going to need your permission to perform the most unusual surgery in galactic history. Veltar looked at her daughter, then at the human doctor who had traveled across the stars to help them. Do it. The operating chamber had been transformed into something that belonged neither to human nor crystalline hegemony medicine, but somewhere in between. Marcus had spent 6 hours integrating human life support systems with the alien biobed, creating a hybrid medical platform that could sustain Princess Zaralyn while he attempted the impossible. Ambassador Veltar stood at the observation window, her crystalline features reflecting the blue glow of the monitoring equipment. Beside her, the chief healer watched with obvious skepticism as Marcus made final preparations for the procedure. The concept is sound in theory, Dr. Reeves said, checking the biocompatibility readings one final time. But we're essentially performing surgery on an alien nervous system that we barely understand. Using technology that was never designed for this species. Marcus nodded, his hands steady despite the enormity of what he was attempting. The beautiful thing about biological systems is that they follow universal principles. Energy transfer, cellular metabolism, neural connectivity. The basic mechanics are the same whether you're dealing with carbon-based life or crystalline biological hybrids. Princess Zara Lynn lay unconscious on the biobed, her corrupted crystals pulsing weakly with that angry red light. Marcus had sedated her using a carefully calculated dose of human anesthetics modified for her unique physiology. But every minute that passed brought her closer to the 75% corruption threshold that would mean death. Initiating neural bypass, Marcus announced, activating the human life support systems. Immediately, the princess's vital signs transferred to the human monitors. Her heartbeat and brain activity now displayed in familiar patterns that Marcus could read and understand. The moment of truth came when he began the delicate process of severing the bioelectrical connections between her crystals and her nervous system. One by one, he used microsurgical tools to interrupt the crystalline neural pathways while simultaneously connecting human neural interface devices to maintain the flow of sensory and motor information. Neural continuity maintained, Dr. Reeves reported. Her brain function is stable on human life support. Now came the part that had never been attempted before. With the princess's biological systems temporarily isolated from her corrupted crystals, Marcus began administering a cocktail of human pharmaceuticals designed to attack the infection. Broad-spectrum antibiotics, antiviral compounds, and cellular regeneration stimulants flowed through IV lines directly into her bloodstream. The corruption is responding, the chief healer said, his voice filled with amazement. Look at the crystal matrix readings. Marcus looked up from his surgical instruments to see the angry red veins in the princess's crystals beginning to fade. The infection, designed to be invulnerable to crystal-based healing methods, had no defense against human pharmaceutical intervention. It's working, Veltar whispered, pressing her hands against the observation window. The red is disappearing, but Marcus knew the hardest part was still ahead. Eliminating the infection was only half the battle. Now he had to re-establish the biological connections between the princess and her crystals without reintroducing the corruption. Beginning crystal reintegration protocol, he announced, carefully removing the human neural interfaces and preparing to reconnect the princess's natural, crystalline neural pathways. The first connection sparked with blue light, and the princess's crystal growth responded with a healthy pulse of bioluminescence. But as Marcus prepared to make the second connection, alarms began blaring throughout the medical facility. What's happening? Dr. Reeves demanded. The chief healer was studying his instruments with alarm. The crystal entities are rejecting the reintegration. They're treating the princess's treated crystals as foreign objects. Marcus realized what was happening. The pharmaceutical treatment didn't just eliminate the corruption, it changed the biochemical signature of her crystals. Her own symbiotic partners don't recognize her anymore. Ambassador Veltar looked stricken. Then we've saved her from the corruption only to lose her to rejection syndrome. Not necessarily. Marcus was already recalibrating his instruments. The crystal entities are essentially sophisticated biological computers. They're rejecting her crystals because the biochemical handshake protocols have been altered. But if I can re-establish those protocols, he began working with a precision that surprised even himself, using microelectrical stimulation to recreate the exact bioelectric patterns that characterized healthy crystal entity communication. It was like trying to crack an alien computer code while performing brain surgery. But Marcus found himself falling into a rhythm that felt almost natural. The entities are responding, the chief healer reported, but the communication patterns are different than anything we've seen before. Marcus paused in his work, studying the readouts. The princess's crystals were indeed communicating with the entities, but the patterns were more complex, more sophisticated than the baseline readings he had seen from other crystalline hegemony citizens. Dr. Chen, Dr. Reeves said quietly, her neural activity is increasing. Whatever you've done, it's enhancing her cognitive function beyond normal parameters. Marcus looked at the neural readouts and felt a chill of recognition. The pharmaceutical treatment didn't just eliminate the corruption, it optimized the crystal biological interface. She's not just cured, she's enhanced. Princess Zaralin's eyes fluttered open, and when she looked at Marcus, her gaze held a depth of awareness that seemed almost overwhelming. Her crystals pulsed with brilliant blue light, brighter and more vibrant than any they had seen. "Mother," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that resonated through the crystalline walls of the medical facility. "I can hear them. I can hear all of them." Veltar rushed into the operating chamber, tears streaming down her silvery face. "Zaralin, you're alive! You're safe." "I'm more than safe," the princess said, sitting up with fluid grace. "The crystal entities, Mother, they're not just partners. They're a vast network of consciousness that spans the galaxy, and the corruption wasn't just a weapon against us. It was meant to sever our connection to them permanently." Marcus felt pieces of a larger puzzle clicking into place. The Hegemony Collective. They didn't just want to kill your people, they wanted to isolate you from this crystal network. "Yes," Princess Zaralin said, her enhanced awareness allowing her to process complex concepts with startling clarity. "And now I understand why. The crystal entities have been observing galactic civilization for millions of years, waiting for a species capable of joining their network as true partners rather than simply symbiotic hosts." She looked directly at Marcus, her luminous eyes holding depths of ancient wisdom. "They've been waiting for humanity." The revelation hit Marcus like a physical blow. As Princess Zaralin sat up on the bio-bed, her enhanced crystals casting dancing patterns of blue light across the medical chamber walls, he struggled to process what she had just told him. Waiting for humanity? "Doctor," Reeves whispered. "What do you mean?" Princess Zaralin turned her luminous gaze toward the human doctor, and Marcus could see her pupils dilating and contracting as if she was processing vast amounts of information in real time. "The crystal entities have been observing your species since you first achieved spaceflight. They've watched your rapid technological advancement, your adaptability, your unique approach to problem solving." She gestured toward Marcus. "What Dr. Chen just accomplished proves their assessment. You didn't try to work within our existing crystal healing paradigms. You completely bypassed them and created an entirely new approach. That kind of innovative thinking is exactly what the network has been seeking." Ambassador Veltar moved closer to her daughter, studying the unprecedented brightness of her crystalline growths. "Zaralin, the enhancement you've experienced, is it permanent?" "More than permanent, Mother. It's evolutionary." The princess stood up from the bio-bed with fluid grace, her movements now carrying a precision and elegance that seemed almost choreographed. The pharmaceutical treatment didn't just cure the corruption, it optimized the neural pathways between biological consciousness and crystal intelligence. "I'm experiencing thoughts and awareness that span multiple star systems." Marcus was frantically taking readings with his medical scanner, trying to understand what had happened to his patient. "Princess, are you experiencing any discomfort? Sensory overload, cognitive strain?" She smiled at him, and the expression held warmth that seemed to encompass entire civilizations. "Quite the opposite. I feel more myself than I ever have before. But I also feel connected to something vast and wonderful." Her expression grew serious. "And I feel the danger we're all in." "The Hegemony Collective," Veltar said immediately. "Yes, but they're not acting alone. The corruption weapon was designed specifically to sever our connection to the crystal network, because that network represents the greatest threat to their expansion plans." Princess Zaralin moved to the chamber's main display screen, her enhanced abilities allowing her to interface directly with the crystalline computer systems. Images began flowing across the screen. Star charts, tactical analyses, fleet movements. The collective has been systematically conquering or destroying any species that shows potential for crystal network integration. They have already eliminated 17 civilizations, including the architects of Rigel and the singing crystals of the Vega system. Marcus studied the tactical displays with growing alarm. But why target species connected to this crystal network specifically? Because the network is more than just a communication system, Princess Zaralin explained. It's a galactic-scale intelligence that has been quietly guiding the development of consciousness and technology throughout this region of space. The collective sees it as competition for galactic dominance. Dr. Reeves was studying her medical readings with fascination. Princess, the neural enhancement you've experienced, could it be replicated in other individuals? That's exactly what the collective is afraid of. Zara Lynn turned back to them, her crystalline features glowing with inner light. Humans have the unique cognitive flexibility to adapt to crystal enhancement without losing their individual consciousness. Most species either reject the integration entirely or become absorbed into a collective mind. But humans could maintain their individuality while gaining access to galactic-scale intelligence. The implications were staggering. Marcus found himself thinking about the potential for human evolution, for the expansion of consciousness beyond anything their species had ever imagined. But he was also thinking about the immediate threat. How long before the collective realizes their weapon failed? He asked. They already know. Princess Zara Lynn's expression darkened. I can sense their surveillance systems through the crystal network. A collective war fleet is already en route to this system. They'll arrive in approximately 43 hours. Ambassador Veltar straightened, her diplomatic training taking over despite the extraordinary circumstances. Then we need to prepare our defenses. Our planetary shield generators, our fleet. Won't be enough, the princess said gently. The collective has been preparing for this confrontation for decades. They have weapons specifically designed to disrupt crystal-based technology. Our traditional defenses will be useless against them. Marcus looked between the mother and daughter, his mind racing through possibilities. But they're not prepared for human technology. Just like the corruption weapon had no defenses against human medicine. Exactly. Princess Zara Lynn moved closer to Marcus, her enhanced awareness allowing her to follow his thought processes almost in real time. Dr. Chen, the same innovative thinking that saved my life could save both our species, but it would require a level of cooperation and trust that has never been attempted before. What do you have in mind? Integration. The word hung in the air like a physical presence, not just technological cooperation, but actual biological and consciousness integration. Humans with crystal enhancement working alongside crystalline hegemony citizens with human medical augmentation. A hybrid approach that the collective has no defense against. Dr. Reeves looked up from her medical scanner, her eyes wide with possibility. The neural pathways you've developed, we could replicate them in human volunteers. And the pharmaceutical enhancement techniques we used on you could be adapted for other crystalline hegemony citizens. Creating a new form of consciousness, Marcus said slowly. Neither purely human nor purely crystalline hegemony, but something new. Princess Zara Lynn nodded. Something the galaxy has never seen before. Something powerful enough to stand against the collective and preserve the freedom of both our species. Ambassador Veltar had been quietly observing the conversation, her diplomatic mind working through the implications. This would require unprecedented cooperation between our governments. The Earth Alliance would need to approve human volunteers for experimental enhancement procedures, and your people would need to accept human medical intervention on a massive scale, Marcus added. The alternative is extinction for both our species, Princess Zara Lynn said simply. The collective won't stop with us. Once they eliminate the crystal network, they'll turn their attention to any species that shows potential for rapid advancement. Humanity is definitely on their list. Marcus looked at Dr. Reeves, seeing his own determination reflected in her eyes. How many human volunteers would we need? For a meaningful defensive force? At least 1,000 individuals willing to undergo crystal enhancement, and we'd need several thousand of our people to accept human medical augmentation. Princess Zara Lynn's enhanced mind was already running tactical calculations. It's possible, but we'd need to begin immediately. Then we'd better start making some very urgent communications, Marcus said, reaching for his communication device, because in 43 hours we're either going to make history or become history. Ambassador Veltar placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch carrying warmth and gratitude. Dr. Chen, you came here to save one life. You may end up saving 2 entire civilizations. Marcus looked at Princess Zara Lynn, her enhanced consciousness already reaching out through the crystal network, to coordinate what would be the most ambitious medical and military operation in galactic history. "Let's get started," he said. The next 18 hours became a whirlwind of frantic preparation that transformed the crystalline hegemony's capital city into something resembling a massive medical laboratory crossed with a military staging ground. Marcus had never seen anything like the scale of cooperation that emerged once both governments understood the stakes. Captain Rodriguez had arrived with the full crew of the Aurora, along with emergency medical supplies and 3 additional Earth Alliance medical ships that had been diverted from their missions. The sight of human doctors working alongside crystalline hegemony healers would have been unthinkable just days earlier, but desperation had a way of breaking down barriers. "Integration candidates. Report to Medical Bay 7, Dr. Reeves announced over the facility's communication system. She had been working non-stop to refine the enhancement procedures, using Princess Zara Lynn's successful treatment as a template for both species. Marcus stood in the main coordination center, watching displays that showed the progress of the integration program. So far, they had successfully enhanced 43 humans with crystal technology and 67 crystalline hegemony citizens with human medical augmentation. Each success brought them closer to having a fighting force that could stand against the collective. But each failure reminded them of how experimental and dangerous the process remained. "The learning curve is remarkable," Dr. Elizabeth Harrison, one of the newly enhanced humans, reported as she underwent her post-procedure evaluation. The crystalline growths on her temples pulsed with the same brilliant blue light that characterized Princess Zara Lynn's enhancement. "I can access tactical databases across multiple star systems, coordinate with crystal entities in real time, and process information at rates that would have been impossible before." But the process wasn't without its challenges. 3 human volunteers had experienced severe neural rejection, requiring immediate medical intervention to prevent permanent brain damage. 2 crystalline hegemony citizens had gone into biological shock when their natural crystal connections were temporarily severed for human medical enhancement. "We're pushing the boundaries of what both physiologies can handle," Dr. Reeves warned during an emergency medical consultation. "The success rate is improving, but we're still looking at significant risks for every volunteer." Marcus nodded grimly. "And we're running out of time. The collective fleet will be here in 25 hours. Princess Zara Lynn, who had been serving as a liaison between the enhanced individuals and the Crystal Network, approached their group with an expression of concern. "We have another problem. The crystal entities are reporting massive energy buildups in the collective fleet. They're not just bringing conventional weapons." "What kind of energy buildups?" Captain Rodriguez asked. "Reality distortion weapons," the princess replied, her enhanced consciousness drawing the information directly from the network. "Devices that can alter local space-time to negate defensive technologies. They're specifically designed to neutralize crystal-based shielding and human energy weapons simultaneously." The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. "They're not just prepared for each of our technologies separately. They've developed weapons that specifically counter hybrid approaches, which means our enhanced forces won't have the advantage we thought they would," Rodriguez concluded. Marcus stared at the tactical displays, his mind racing through possibilities. The collective had been planning this assault for far longer than they had realized, anticipating even the kind of innovative cooperation that was supposed to be humanity's greatest strength. "Unless," he said slowly, an idea beginning to form. "Unless we don't fight them the way they expect us to." Princess Zara Lynn turned her luminous gaze toward him. "What do you mean?" "They've prepared for military confrontation using enhanced hybrid forces. But what if we don't give them a military confrontation?" Marcus moved to the main tactical display, highlighting the approaching collective fleet. "What if instead of fighting their fleet, we cure it?" Dr. Reeves looked up from her medical reports. "Cure a fleet?" "Think about it," Marcus continued, his excitement building. "The collective operates through forced biological integration, right? They absorb conquered species into their collective consciousness. But what if that integration process is actually a form of infection, similar to the crystal corruption we just cured?" Princess Zara Lynn's enhanced mind immediately grasped the implications. "If we could develop a treatment that reverses forced collective integration, we wouldn't need to destroy the collective fleet. We could liberate it." "Converting enemy forces into allies," Captain Rodriguez said, understanding dawning in her voice. It's brilliant, but is it even possible? The pharmaceutical approaches we use to cure the crystal corruption work by disrupting forced biological connections, Dr. Reeves said, already running calculations on her medical tablet. If collective integration uses similar neural pathway manipulation, we could use targeted treatments to restore individual consciousness to collective drones, Marcus finished. Instead of destroying the fleet, we cure the crews and turn them back into free-thinking individuals. The audacity of the plan was staggering. Rather than preparing for a traditional military defense, they would attempt to perform medical intervention on an invading fleet, liberating the conquered species that made up the collective's forces. The logistics would be incredible, Captain Rodriguez warned. We'd need to deliver pharmaceutical treatments to thousands of enemy ships while under active fire. Not necessarily, Princess Zaralyn said, her consciousness already working through the crystal network to explore possibilities. The crystal entities span the entire system. If we could integrate the pharmaceutical treatments into the crystal network itself, we could deliver them directly to any collective ship that uses crystal-based technology for navigation or communication. And, since the collective has been stealing and adapting technology from conquered species, they almost certainly use some crystal-based systems, Dr. Reeves added. Marcus looked around at the faces of his colleagues, seeing the same mixture of hope and terror that he felt. So instead of preparing for the largest military battle in galactic history, we're preparing for the largest medical intervention in galactic history. The enhanced individuals could serve as delivery vectors, Princess Zaralyn suggested. Their crystal connections would allow them to coordinate the pharmaceutical delivery through the network, while their human medical training would ensure proper dosage and administration. And if it works? Rodriguez asked. If it works, we don't just defeat the collective, Marcus said. We cure it. We restore freedom to potentially millions of enslaved beings and eliminate the threat permanently. And if it doesn't work? Marcus looked out through the crystal walls of the facility at the stars where the collective fleet was approaching. If it doesn't work, we'll find out in 24 hours whether human innovation really is as adaptable as we think it is. Dr. Reeves was already moving toward the pharmaceutical laboratories. Then we'd better start developing the most ambitious medical treatment in galactic history. Princess Zaralyn placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder, her touch conveying both confidence and determination. Dr. Chen, when you saved my life, you proved that human medicine could cure what seemed incurable. Now we have the chance to prove that human compassion can heal what seems irredeemable. Marcus watched as teams of humans and crystalline hegemony citizens began working together with unprecedented cooperation, preparing to turn a military invasion into a medical liberation. Let's cure a galaxy, he said. 22 hours later, Marcus stood in the command center watching the largest medical operation in galactic history unfold across dozens of screens. The collective fleet had arrived at the edge of the system. Over 300 ships containing what sensors, estimated to be nearly 2 million enslaved beings from dozens of conquered species. Liberation compound ready for network distribution, Dr. Reeves reported from the Pharmaceutical Coordination Center. The past day had been a race against time to develop and synthesize enough of the consciousness restoration treatment to affect an entire fleet. All enhanced personnel are in position throughout the crystal network. Marcus looked at the tactical display showing the positions of their enhanced volunteers. The humans who had undergone crystal integration were now distributed throughout the system's crystal network, their consciousness literally extending through crystalline structures that spanned light years. The enhanced crystalline hegemony citizens were serving as coordinators, their human medical training allowing them to monitor and adjust the pharmaceutical delivery in real time. Collective fleet is beginning system penetration, Captain Rodriguez announced from her position aboard the Aurora. They're using crystal-based navigation systems, just as we hoped. Network access confirmed. Princess Zaralyn stood at the center of the operation, her enhanced consciousness serving as the primary coordination node between all the enhanced individuals. The crystalline growths on her temples blazed with blue light as she processed information from across the entire system. I can sense them, she said, her voice carrying harmonics that resonated through the crystal walls. Millions of minds trapped in forced collective consciousness. The pain, the loss of individual identity, it's overwhelming. Focus on the medical intervention, Dr. Reeves instructed gently. We can help them, but only if we maintain precision in the treatment delivery. The first phase of the operation began as the collective fleet moved deeper into the system. Through the crystal network, the enhanced humans began delivering microscopic doses of the liberation compound to the enemy ship's crystal-based systems. The compound was designed to be absorbed through skin contact and inhaled through respiratory systems, spreading throughout the crew's biological systems within minutes. Initial delivery successful on target group Alpha, reported Dr. Harrison, one of the enhanced humans whose consciousness was currently linked to crystals near the fleet's vanguard. Pharmaceutical absorption rates within expected parameters. Marcus watched the biomedical readings streaming back through the network, tracking the progress of the treatment as it spread through the collective vessels. The liberation compound worked by disrupting the neural pathways that maintained forced collective consciousness while simultaneously strengthening the brain chemistry associated with individual identity and free will. We're seeing neurological changes in the forward ships, Dr. Reeves announced. Individual brainwave patterns are beginning to emerge from the collective neural matrix. But the collective command structure had noticed something was wrong. The lead ships began altering course erratically, their tactical formations breaking down as crew members started to question orders that had previously been followed without thought. Collective command ships are increasing their neural suppression broadcasts, Princess Zaralyn reported, strain evident in her voice as she fought to maintain network coordination against the enemy's countermeasures. They're trying to reassert collective control through brute force neural override. Can our compound overcome that level of suppression? Marcus asked. Unknown, Dr. Reeves replied grimly. We designed it to work against normal collective integration, not active neural warfare. The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Harrison's voice crackled through the communication system, but it carried harmonics that suggested she was speaking for more than just herself. Dr. Chen, this is the liberated crew of Collective Vessel Designation 7749. We remember who we were before forced integration. The compound is working, but we need help to resist the command ship's neural attacks. Marcus felt his heart racing. Dr. Harrison, is that you? It's me, but I'm also serving as a communication relay for the liberated crew members. They want to help with the liberation operation, but they need medical support to maintain their restored consciousness. The implications were staggering. Instead of just curing the collective fleet, they were recruiting it. The liberated crews wanted to participate in freeing their fellow prisoners. All enhanced personnel, this is Dr. Chen, Marcus announced through the network. We're moving to phase 2 of the operation. Begin coordinating with liberated crews to establish resistance nodes throughout the fleet. What followed was unlike anything in the history of galactic warfare. Instead of ship-to-ship combat, the battle was being fought in the realm of consciousness itself. Liberated crew members worked with enhanced humans to establish pockets of free will throughout the collective fleet, while the command ships desperately tried to reassert neural control over their forces. We're creating a cascade effect, Princess Zaralyn reported, her enhanced consciousness tracking the progress across hundreds of ships. Each liberated crew becomes a source of liberation compound distribution to nearby vessels. The command ships can't suppress the neural restoration fast enough, but the collective wasn't giving up without a fight. The command ships began deploying their reality distortion weapons, attempting to disrupt the crystal network that was serving as the distribution system for the liberation compound. Network integrity compromised in sectors 7 through 12, warned one of the enhanced crystalline hegemony coordinators. Reality distortion fields are severing crystal network connections. Marcus realized they were at the critical moment of the operation. The collective command ships were trying to isolate themselves from the liberation compound by destroying the very network that connected them to their fleet. Princess, can you maintain network coherence against the reality distortion fields? Not alone, she replied, her crystal growths flickering as she fought to maintain connections across the disrupted space. The distortion fields are too powerful. Then we don't do it alone. Marcus turned to Captain Rodriguez. Captain, I need you to position the Aurora directly between the command ships and the crystal network hub. Marcus, that will put us in direct line of fire from reality distortion weapons. Our ship wasn't designed to handle that kind of assault. But our ship has something the collective hasn't encountered before, Marcus said, already moving toward the shuttle bay. A hybrid human crystal-enhanced crew working in perfect coordination. We're going to serve as a relay point to maintain network integrity. Dr. Reeves looked up from her pharmaceutical monitors in alarm. Marcus, the neural strain of serving as a network relay node could be fatal. Only if we do it using purely human physiology, Marcus replied, pulling on his medical gear. But what if we temporarily enhance the entire crew of the Aurora using emergency enhancement protocols? The idea was insane, but it was also brilliant. Instead of trying to maintain the network through purely crystal-based connections, they would create a human-crystal hybrid relay station that could adapt to and compensate for reality distortion effects. Emergency enhancement of an entire ship's crew has never been attempted, Princess Zara Lynn warned. Neither has liberating an invading fleet through pharmaceutical intervention, Marcus pointed out. But that seems to be working. Captain Rodriguez looked at her crew, seeing the same determination in their faces that had driven them to answer the ambassador's original distress call. Do it. Emergency enhancement protocols for all volunteers. As the Aurora moved into position between the collective command ships and the Crystal Network, Marcus began the largest emergency enhancement operation in human history. One by one, the crew members underwent rapid crystal integration, transforming the ship into a living relay station that could maintain network connections even against reality distortion attacks. Network coherence restored, Princess Zara Lynn announced as the enhanced crew of the Aurora took over relay functions. Liberation compound distribution resuming across all fleet sectors. The tide of the battle turned decisively. With network integrity maintained, the liberation compound spread throughout the entire collective fleet within hours. Ship after ship began broadcasting surrender signals as their crews regained individual consciousness and rejected their forced collective identity. Collective command ships are powering down, Captain Rodriguez reported, her own newly enhanced consciousness allowing her to coordinate with the Crystal Network in real time. They've lost control of their entire fleet. Marcus watched the final readings as the last of the liberation compound took effect throughout the enemy vessels. Dr. Reeves' final casualty report. 0 combat casualties on our side. 17 enhanced personnel experiencing neural fatigue, but all recoverable. As for the collective fleet, she paused, checking her readings again in amazement. We've successfully liberated approximately 1.7 million enslaved beings representing 43 different species. The silence in the command center was profound as the full magnitude of what they had accomplished sank in. They hadn't just won a battle. They had freed an empire. Incoming transmission from the former collective flagship. 6 months after the liberation of the collective fleet, Marcus stood on the observation deck of the new Galactic Liberation Medical Station, watching ships from dozens of species arrive for what historians were already calling the most important diplomatic gathering in galactic history. The station itself was a marvel of hybrid engineering, part human technology, part crystalline hegemony bioarchitecture, and part contributions from the 43 species that had been liberated from collective control. It orbited the Crystal Network hub where the Great Healing had taken place, serving as both a medical research facility and a symbol of what could be accomplished when species worked together rather than against each other. Dr. Chen, Princess Zara Lynn, approached him, her enhanced crystals now serving as a communication relay for the entire Galactic Liberation Network. The assembly is ready to begin. Representatives from 127 species are now present, including 12 species we've never encountered before who came specifically to learn about the Liberation Compound. Marcus nodded, still amazed by how quickly word had spread throughout the galaxy. The concept of using medical intervention to free enslaved populations had revolutionized how conflicts were approached. Rather than military conquest, species were now competing to develop better pharmaceutical liberation techniques. Any word from the expedition teams? He asked. 37 successful liberation operations in the past 5 months, Princess Zara Lynn reported with satisfaction. The liberation compound has been adapted for 17 different forms of neural enslavement, including some we discovered in systems where entire species didn't even realize they were being controlled. Dr. Reeves joined them on the observation deck, her own crystal enhancements allowing her to coordinate with medical teams across multiple star systems simultaneously. The latest adaptation is particularly interesting. Dr. Harrison's team has developed a version that can break economic enslavement patterns, situations where species are trapped in exploitative trade relationships through psychological Conditioning. Economic liberation through medical intervention, Marcus mused. I never would have thought of applying pharmaceutical therapy to trade negotiations. That's the beauty of the network effect, Princess Zaralyn explained. Each species brings their own perspective to the liberation protocols. The Rigelian survivors contributed treatments for technological dependency. The former vegan crystal singers developed compounds for breaking artistic suppression. The liberated collective crews shared techniques for reversing military conditioning. Captain Rodriguez approached their group, her enhanced consciousness now serving as the primary coordinator for human participation in the Galactic Liberation Network. Marcus, you need to see this. We've received a transmission from the edge of the galaxy that changes everything. They moved to the main communications center where a message was playing on the central display. The speaker was clearly not from any known species. Its form seemed to shift between crystalline and organic structures, and its voice carried harmonics that suggested vast age and wisdom. Greetings to the beings of the Liberation Network, the entity said. I am a representative of the first civilization, the species that originally created the Crystal Network millions of years ago. We have been observing your recent activities with great interest and considerable surprise. Marcus felt his breath catch. The first civilization was legendary, the theoretical progenitor species that some scientists believed had seeded crystal technology throughout the galaxy before disappearing into deep space. Your approach to conflict resolution through medical liberation represents an evolutionary leap in galactic consciousness that we had not anticipated, the message continued. We departed this galaxy because we believed that biological intelligence was inevitably doomed to cycles of conquest and enslavement. Your recent activities suggest we may have been premature in that assessment. Princess Zaralyn's enhanced awareness was already processing the implications. They're offering to return, to share their advanced knowledge with the Liberation Network. More than that, the entity's message continued. We are offering to provide you with the location of 17 other galaxies where enslaved species await liberation. Your medical approach to freedom could heal not just this galaxy, but the entire local galaxy cluster. The magnitude of what was being offered was staggering. Marcus looked around at his colleagues, seeing the same mixture of excitement and trepidation that he felt. There's more, Captain Rodriguez said, advancing the message. However, the first civilization representative continued, such an expansion of liberation operations would require unprecedented cooperation between species, as well as medical advancements that push the boundaries of what biological consciousness can achieve. We are prepared to provide the necessary technological foundation, but the initiative must come from your network. Dr. Reeves was already running calculations on her medical tablet. Intergalactic liberation operations. We'd need to enhance thousands of medical teams, develop liberation compounds for species we've never encountered, and coordinate across distances that strain even crystal network capabilities. It's impossible, Marcus said automatically, then caught himself. Actually, 6 months ago I would have said that liberating an entire collective fleet through pharmaceutical intervention was impossible. The question, Princess Zaralyn said, her enhanced consciousness already reaching out through the network to gauge the response from other species, is whether we're ready to take responsibility for healing not just our own galaxy, but an entire cluster of galaxies. Marcus looked out through the crystal walls of the station at the ships representing dozens of species that had come together to learn about liberation medicine. 6 months ago he had been a simple xenobiologist on a routine survey mission. Now he was being asked to help coordinate the largest medical intervention in the history of the universe. Dr. Chen, came a voice from behind him. He turned to see Dr. Harrison, whose own enhancements now allowed her to serve as a liaison with the liberated collective species. The assembly has reached a consensus. All 127 species are unanimous. They want to accept the first civilization's offer. All of them? Dr. Reeves asked in amazement. Apparently, once you've experienced liberation medicine, the idea of leaving other species in enslavement becomes intolerable, Dr. Harrison explained. The liberated collective crews were particularly vocal about it. They remember what it was like to be trapped in forced consciousness, and they refuse to allow that to happen to others if they can prevent it. Marcus realized that this was the moment when everything would change, not just for humanity, not just for the crystalline hegemony, but for biological consciousness throughout the universe. The Liberation Network had evolved from a desperate medical intervention to save one princess into a galactic movement that could reshape the nature of civilization itself. "Princess," he said, turning to Zara Lynn, "can the crystal network handle the strain of intergalactic coordination?" "With the proper enhancements and the first civilization's technological support, yes," she replied. "But it would require every species in the network to contribute their best medical and scientific minds to the effort." Marcus looked at Dr. Reeves, seeing his own determination reflected in her enhanced features. "Dr. Reeves, are you ready to develop liberation medicine for species we've never imagined?" "I've been ready since the moment I saw what human innovation could accomplish when combined with alien wisdom." "She," replied Captain Rodriguez, was already coordinating with the assembled fleet representatives. "Dr. Chen, I'm receiving confirmation from all ship commanders. The Liberation Network is formally accepting the First Civilization's offer." As Marcus prepared to respond to the First Civilization's message, Princess Zara Lynn placed a hand on his shoulder. "Dr. Chen, when you first touched my corrupted crystals and began developing the treatment that saved my life, did you ever imagine it would lead to this?" Marcus thought back to that desperate moment in the medical bay when he had decided to bypass traditional crystal healing and try something completely new. "I was just trying to save one patient," he said. "I never imagined that one medical intervention could change the entire galaxy." "That's the beauty of human innovation," Princess Zara Lynn said, her enhanced consciousness radiating warmth and gratitude. "You don't just solve the immediate problem. You create solutions that transform everything they touch." Marcus activated the communication system to respond to the First Civilization. "This is Dr. Marcus Chen, representing the Galactic Liberation Medical Network. We accept your offer and are prepared to begin developing intergalactic liberation protocols immediately." As he sent the message that would launch the largest medical operation in universal history, Marcus reflected on the strange path that had brought them to this moment. It had started with a simple touch, his hand brushing against alien skin to begin a treatment that no one believed would work. Now that same spirit of medical innovation and interspecies cooperation was about to heal not just one galaxy but 17, and it had all begun with a human doctor who refused to accept that anything was incurable, and an alien princess who had the courage to trust him with her life. In the end, that might be humanity's